All right. Sound check, sound check. Let me know how we're doing on the sound. We've got the usual suspects. First, of course, as usual, see Farsight on here before I was even here, I think. So that's pretty impressive. Sean Stryker, welcome again. Ultimaza. And newcomer Johnny Jetwash9999. First time on Twitch. Yes, he is a dino. Welcome everybody to CanHammer TV. It is week 8 or 9. I've stopped counting days now. I'm counting weeks of isolation, and it seems like most people have forgotten that there's such a thing still around called COVID. I was at the supermarket just an hour ago, and everybody's brought their extended family to the supermarket now. They seem to have stopped with distancing measures, and it's just kind of back to normal. The supermarket was packed, and I don't know, people. I don't think you've looked outside recently, but it's still going on. So let's not make the last 8-9 weeks for nothing. Let's keep the effort going until we're sure we're in the clear. Okay? Let's try that. The weekend was crazy. Long weekend. It was beautiful weather. Everybody was at the freaking park, even though it's still closed. It was a bit crazy. So, you know, people, everybody thinks that it's just going to go straight back to normal. It's not, and it shouldn't. And I can tell you what, the hospital's not going straight back to normal, so people should be ready for that. Anyway, enough COVID talk. Tonight we're going to be talking about Unleash the Lions. So I quite enjoyed doing the deep dive into Tanglefoot episode. That was pretty cool, talking for like an hour on all about Tanglefoot. So as requested, a deep dive into the other one of our interesting stratagems, Unleash the Lions. And so we're definitely going to do that tonight. That should be fun. And then next week, it popped out of nowhere but seems to be a hot topic of conversation almost every day, is Inquisitors. Love it or hate it. Take them or not. Which ones? What to take them with. So we're going to talk about Inquisitors next week. And how to play them with a Custodes army, pros and cons, and that sort of thing. So that's what we're going to do next week. So anyway, welcome to the show, and welcome to everybody watching on Twitch, everybody watching later on YouTube. Thank you very much for Patreons and Discord members, as well as all our subscribers and followers, and our big sponsors, including Dan at the Red Dragon, who got to open up for the first time this week. 5 people at a time in the store. He has survived, and thanks to everybody for giving him business while it's been tough. But he has survived, and we're going to come out strong on the other end. So thanks very much. Big shout out to Dan. Also, yeah, those are my shout outs. So before we get into Unleash the Lions, just want to let you in on a few things. People always ask me what I'm drinking. So tonight I'm drinking Town and Country Blonde Ale, which is a beautiful beer, brewed locally. Yep, Dominion City, which is of course in Ottawa. So there we go. I gotta say, Ottawa, for a small place, has a large concentration of good craft brew. So just drinking that tonight. What I'd also like to show you, as I mentioned last week, that there's going to be some changes when we finally do start streaming games again. There will be a new overlay, which is a little bit more comprehensive than before. We're going to feature a room cam that's going to show off just what the players are doing, because people seem to like that. And then we're going to have the roving cam, and what we're going to try and do is highlight tactics or cool moves or mistakes while they happen with a camera right in the action. So we're definitely going to be doing that and improving our streams that way. And to that front, I have managed to gain the tech to do this. So this is now the feed you're getting from my Sony digital SLR, which is super high quality. And I can now stream this baby and I don't have the right lens on. I need a wider angle, but as you can see, this thing can do crazy sharp close-ups Depth of field. We can use this to film the armies at the beginning. We can do lots of things with this camera because it is an amazingly powerful camera that I've now hooked up to the power of the internet. So anyway, this thing has Wi-Fi on it anyway, but you can't stream through it that way. So that's going to be cool. I've got a bunch of nice lenses. I got to use my wide angle one. I've got my sort of roving one for now. So that is going to be sweet. And so what I'm probably going to do is use that cam for the room cam. Just tape it to the wall or something. And then this cam for the roving cam, because that's going to be sweet. All right, so that is that. So super excited about that. Shout out to Amazon for having not too bad delivery times at this time, even though I don't need it right now. There you go. Okay, so always trying to make our streams better and more enjoyable for everybody. All right, so I'm super excited about that for our first game, whenever it will be. Why don't you let me know what you want to see as our return game, our first game back. We're trying to make it happen. So what else going on? Continuing to paint out our bikes, doing the helms now, which are white. I've been trying a few different methods to kind of shade it and stuff, and it's just not looking good, and so it's real frustrating. And I'm probably trying to be a little bit too fancy. And so anyway, I'm gonna redo them gray and start again and trying to make them look good. Those silly white helmets are really bugging me. Let's see what's going on in chat. Ultima's Homeless Stone. I have to decide between a Telemon and another Custodes Grav tank. Have 2 tanks already. Any thoughts? My thoughts, really, before you spend that Forge World money, is actually wait for the book. Not that the books are going to have things specifically in there for Custodes tanks or Telemons, but it may have stuff to make Dreadnought better, or just general stratagems that might make either of those 2 units better. And it's so close with the way they're giving previews for books like two ahead of us. I'm thinking in the next 3-4 weeks we're going to have it. So I think you should probably just wait. If you're just taking it right now and you have to buy it because you have a discount or something, then I would actually go with a 3rd Custodes tank for now, or a Blaze. I wouldn't buy a Telemon right now. If you do buy a Telemon, buy a selection of fists and maybe a couple of guns. But yeah, hoping the Telemon gets better, but you never know. So I would actually just wait. What is the big preview? Well, this has been another hot topic of conversation. They're making a big deal of it every single day. 3 or 4 ads on all their sites about big preview, big preview, big preview. These quotes going up. It's not clear. They're like, we were charged to killing the heretics and all that stuff. You're supposed to believe in Emperor as the god. And so it's not clear which side of the line it's on, the bad side or good side. They've said that it's a big thing that all fans of 40K will want to see. So will it be a faction-specific thing? It's hard to know. We're talking today, there could be the Silent King, which apparently is something that's happening. And the Silent King would change everybody, or everything changes leading up to the 9th edition. Maybe it's announcing 9th edition. We don't really know. In any case, it's not anything for Custodes, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But we're going to have to wait 4 more days to find out. So, yeah. Otherwise, there was another kind of semi-leak of the AdMech flying dudes, and then not really a leak of anything we didn't know already, and then nothing again. So they haven't put it up for pre-order on the weekend, so that's probably, hopefully, pre-order this weekend and release the weekend after. So, yeah, at the earliest, I'd say 3-4 weeks for our book. So, yeah. Homeless Stone, hoping it's not 9th edition, just got into 8th. I wouldn't worry too much. From all that I've heard about this fabled 9th edition, is it's not so much a 9th as maybe an 8.5, and it's just a changing of 8th to make it a little bit more manageable. So it's not going to be a complete turnover from like 7th to 8th was. So that's what I've heard anyway. I don't know for sure, but that's probably true. Philip Daniels, welcome. Okay, so please consider joining our Discord, which is right there, an updated link. That's the CanHammer Discord, and of course the Custodes Collective lives on that Discord, so please consider joining us by clicking the link. If that doesn't work for you, let me know. I can send you a link. We are going to talk tonight about Unleashed Lions, so if you have stories about how you have unleashed your lions, or not, but the ones where you have is more interesting, post them down below. post them in the Discord. We'll try and get to them. I'd love to hear people's experiences with this very interesting stratagem, which on first read looks really cool, then on second read seems really shit, and then on further deep dive may have some uses. So here we go. Philip Daniel, a start for a new player. What do you think the first Forge World purchase? Well, that's a great question. I would think if you're looking for the things that you're going to use the most, I would say actually Aquilon Terminators, because I think Knights are coming back in a couple of weeks and we're going to need those babies. If you're talking second most useful, would probably be like Caladius tanks. And then after that, it's probably everything is as equally good or not good as everything else. Telemons and Sagittarium and Palace tanks, and there's a lot of stuff in Forge World. It's like the other half of our army, basically. So there's a lot of options, but probably if you had to only buy one thing that would be the most useful in the next month before our book comes out, it would be Aquilon. Because I think once Advent comes out, we're going to see a lot of Knights again. Although they have not leaked anything to do with Knights or Demons. So, it's been most all AdMech. The Falcon, welcome. Shout out to Peter. So Peter has been, him and Val have been on like Honest Wargamer like every Monday. I think it's a regular thing now, which is always a good time. I wake up usually around 7, so it's cool to just tune in. And I just finished listening to Chapter Tactics episode on the worst 5 armies in 40K. And of course, Custodes was on there as number 4. So 4 from the bottom, so like second of the worst. And Necrons was above us, which I agree, because Necrons beat us, therefore they have to be above us. I gotta say that Peter's insights were mostly spot on. The problems, some good suggestions, the extra CP thing. Peter made some good suggestions, so shout out to Peter. Pablo may be a little bit not knowing too much about Custodes in general, other than that they're gold. And Brandon's experience of Custodes or playing against them, mostly based in a year ago, not since the Caladius meta. So nobody really had a really good idea about what people are playing these days, but that's okay because we're a small faction huddling by the fire. But shout out to Peter and his awesome work in the community. As always, check him out, 40kstatscenter.com, and maybe he'll be joining us and Rob and the stream team again for CanHammer team. Who knows? So we're going to talk about Unleash the Lions. This should be good. Okay, I spent quite some time today deep diving it in my head, over and above my normal level of consciousness of thinking about things, and just trying to come up with all the good things and bad things to do and things about Unleash the Lions stratagem. So hopefully I cover everything. If you have some cool use of Unleash the Lions, or maybe not such a cool use for Unleash the Lions, and you want to let us know about it, post it in the chat or let me know afterwards, and we'll try and cover it. But you'd be amazed at how much interesting things you can do with this stratagem. I was just talking to Richard Siegler today, and just to get his okay to advertise the show on Art of War, and he said fine, which is great. And I said we're doing a deep dive into Unleash the Lions like we did an hour on Tanglefoot last time. And he thinks that Tanglefoot and Unleash the Lions are both world-class quotes. So let's see if we can find what world it is classy in. Tanglefoot, I agree, one of the best stratagems in the game, as I already said. Let's see if Unleash the Lions can see some play coming up. And unfortunately, I did not get too many chances to try it with my Alaris concept list, which of course is designed to use that stratagem to greatest effect. So hopefully when I get to start playing again, we can start unleashing some lions. First of all, I'm not sure where the lions come from. I've read all the Custodes lore. I'm not sure we've ever been referred to as lions, but maybe I don't really pay attention. But there we go. Okay, here we go. Unleash the Lions, 2 CP for a Custodes Alaris unit. And it is at the start of the movement phase, select a unit of Alaris Custodians from your army that is on the battlefield. It immediately splits into separate units, each containing a single model. Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is first we're going to pack that. Then we're going to talk about some general principles. We're going to go over general pros and cons about the stratagem. And then we're going to talk about specific uses. We're going to talk about how the stratagem applies in both like formats, so book missions, ETC or WTC format, as well as ITC format. And then we're going to go over some actual uses, and we're going to go to the tabletop. Okay, I've got some dudes set up for you, and we're going to go do some demoing on the tabletop. And I think that'll be it. So let's get started after a swig of beer. As usual, if you have questions, please post them in the chat. We'll answer them as we go. If you have ways that you have unleashed your lines, please let us know as we go. We'll discuss them and hopefully have a good time with that. So, unleash the lions. General principles. So, this splits a unit of Alaris Terminators into multiple one-model units. Okay? So, these units that come out of this split are just one model, non-character units. They're not characters. That would have been really cool. If we could split a unit of Alaris into characters, that would have been really cool. But alas, not to be. So that's the first thing to note. They don't get any special protection. They're now just units of one model instead of a unit of whatever number. The other thing to note is that it is done at the beginning of your movement phase. Okay? Therefore, if you have deep struck your Alaris, which a lot of people tend to do, and you bring them down, that is at the end of the movement phase, you cannot split until the next turn. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind. You can't just come down and split. That would be sweet as well. But you have to come down, survive a turn, and then split. Okay? And that makes it a lot harder to use. If you lose one or two guys before you manage to split, then you're kind of like, well, it's not really worth it anymore. So that makes it a lot harder to use than normal. Now, if you have a unit of Alaris on the table, and you could always split, of course. That's obvious. But a lot of times, they're Terminators, you deep strike them, right? So that's another thing. 2 CP. So in an average foot list, and that's a list in which you would be playing Alaris Terminators, a foot list. We're not talking mech tonight. Then 2 CP is a quarter of your CP. You need 3 for Homer. You need 2 to 3 for Tanglefoots. You're running out of CP if you spend 2 to split a unit. So, and you're saving Trajan probably for a Homer. So, which you might have homered these guys in the turn before. So 2 CP is a lot, especially if you're thinking about using this in the end game. And so do you save 2 CP to leave and unleash? We'll talk about that later, but probably not. But 2 CP is a steep price. So you got to keep that in mind. Generally, it's more worthwhile to split a larger unit so you get more models, more units afterwards. But it does have some uses in smaller, 3-man or 4-man units like I've been using in my Alaris concept list. If you want to see the Alaris concept list, it's on the Discord pinned under the channels there. It's one of the pinned lists. And so that's basically a 3 or a 4-man Terminator unit that drops in somewhere and then splits. And now you have these little kind of go guys, just as for harassment versus splitting a large hammer unit. So Peter says, best use he's ever had of Unleash the Lions. Turn 5, he had his Alaris squad tagged by a Calex's assassin so the opponent could protect his warlord from getting dunked on by them. He used Unleash the Lions so only one model was considered to be in combat and then walked over with the other 3 and murdered Samuel. There you go. There you go. So that is a good use. For sure. So, just writing that down, and we'll repeat it later, Peter. It's an expensive way to get out of combat, but for sure can be done. Maybe we'll get something fall back and charge in our book. So those are kind of the general principles with Unleash the Lions. Not too much wordage there to pack through, not too much trickiness. It's just 2 CP, you split a unit into multiple units. But those are the implications and how to use. So, the pros. And these are general pros and cons, not specific to any particular mission type, mission format, or try not to get into the specific uses of it. We're going to go over that later, just as general pros and cons. One pro of, and these are pros and cons of splitting versus the cons of splitting. Okay, so the action of turning a big unit into multiple small units. What is the pro of that? What is the con to that? Okay, pros: more board coverage. So we often complain we don't have enough board coverage, and so if you split 7 guys into 7 individual units, you can now stop deep strikes into the whole half of the board. So you get more board coverage because you can split these guys further apart rather than 2-inch coherency. So yes, you do cover more board space. You can potentially sit on more objectives, and of course they are OBSEC, so that really helps. You're able to screen more area. You're able to engage more units, albeit with single dudes, and you're able to bad touch more things. So that is a pro for sure. Nobody can argue with that. And as you can see, if I just switch quickly over here to my overhead, you can see here that this is a unit of 9 Bulgren, but really 2 are parallel. So 7 Bulgren right here. You can see this takes up over half the table at coherency. So if you can split them just a little bit apart, you can cover a lot of space. So that's one pro. The other pro, it's easier to hide single models than it is to hide a 6 or 7 man unit. And so even small little runes and hills can hide like a single dude. Whereas to hide a full 6 or 7 man unit or more, you need a pretty decent sized rune. So if your job is to hide and you have different places to hide, especially if you're hiding mid board on an objective or something, you're better able to do that with 1 dude than with 6 or 7 dudes. So that's a pro, easier to hide. Another pro, a single Alaris Terminator is still a force. He's still a 4 wound mini character. He's not a character rule-wise, but he's kind of almost like a 5-wound character. He has 4 wounds, 2 up, 4 up, and he still has 4 attacks at strength 8, -2, D3 damage. And he can still benefit from -1 to hit aura. He can still benefit from +1 attack aura, and still benefit from rerolls. And so one Alaris Terminator, and still has his movement shenanigans. He can still use the stratagems, although we'll come to that in a second. And he still has a gun and a grenade launcher. So he's still a little mini force to be reckoned with and not to be ignored. So now you have independently moving 6 or 7 mini forces to be reckoned with. So that can be strong. A single Alaris can still kill many characters by himself in combat. He can still kill 5 to 10 guardsmen in a couple of rounds or 1 round with some good shooting and some combat and morale. He can threaten most small vehicles and half kill larger vehicles. So, they're still a little force to be reckoned with. Another pro, it does make your opponent's target priority, shooting-wise, a little bit more difficult. So let's picture you got like a Devastator unit. We never see those. Okay, let's say Centurions with like las cannons or whatever, and they've got a unit of 3 of them, and it would be easy for them. You got 6 Alaris standing in front of them. I'm just putting everything into that unit. I'm not going to kill them. Let's just see how much I can do. Or, and then now if they've been split, now you're like, las cannon. 1 las cannon has like a over 50% chance of not killing one. And so now what do? Do you put 2 in? Do you put 3? And so it becomes a harder target priority decision to not overkill or underkill individual Alaris unit models. So that's where the 4 wound thing really helps, because there's a lot of 3 damage weapons out there. And so now you're like, okay, I have a 3 damage weapon. Do I put just 2 shots into the guy and might not kill it? Or do I put 3 shots or 4 shots? Depends on the quality of your shooting. So now you're making your opponent make more difficult target priority decisions. And whether your Alaris is at 4 wounds or 1 wound, it's still as effective, versus a unit that's at 6, now down to 1 guy, is way less effective. So there is a little bit of give and play in terms of target priority there. Another pro, it does decrease the efficiency of a lot of things that your opponent is designed to do. Your opponent's armies are generally not designed, other than snipers, to kill single models that aren't vehicles. They're designed to kill units. They're designed to kill 4 centurions, 6 centurions. They're designed to kill, 30 boys. They're not designed to kill 1 4-wound dude with a 2-up, 4-up. So a lot of the things that they do, especially in shooting, but in just general strategies, is not designed around killing dudes that have been split. For example, other than the shooting target priority, just things like psychic powers. So jinxing the whole unit is horrible. Doom, all those things. But now you jinx one dude, you doom one dude. That's a lot less of a problem. Fine, jinx and doom that one dude. Go for it. You still might not kill it, but like doing the whole unit, it really hurts. That unit almost certainly gonna feel it. So it makes things like doom and jinx and things like that much less effective because they can only cast it one time, and now they have to cast it on one dude and not the whole unit. So that is really good. Stratagems. So a lot of times they'll have a stratagem which says target unit gets X amount of buffs against the next person you shoot, or the stratagem just applies to the unit that they're shooting. But now that they've been split, now that your opponent's unit that got buffed is just like against one dude instead of the whole unit. Now, obviously, it depends on the wording of the stratagem, and it can't be a debuff on your unit. It has to be their buff that just applies to their next action. But it's sometimes you may find that there is opportunities where it decreases their stratagem efficiency by doing that. If they have a unit that's designed to just charge into your unit, like a unit of sense, and now you split them and they're spread apart and they can't engage you all, now you've decreased their charge efficiency and they've probably overkilled your 1 or 2 dudes. So there may be an opportunity to negate some damage there by taking people away so they don't have to die. If you're got a unit here and you get hit here by a unit of centurions, they could all die. Whereas if you have one dude and then like a bunch of dudes and you only get hit there, only that one dude is going to die and you still have like 4 or 5 other guys. So it can decrease their efficiency in that regard. Another pro is that, let's say you're charging in, you got a 9-inch charge. You came in and you have a 9-inch charge, and it's your next turn now. So you could put everything on a 46.7% chance of making a 9-inch charge with your full unit. If you split, you now have that amount of chance on each person, and you might get half of them in, let's say on average. So, 3 guys instead of 6 guys. You still got 3 guys in, they're still going to do some work, but if you had failed that charge, you would get no guys in, and that whole unit is screwed. So it gives you more chances to make the charge. There's a corollary to that, obviously. You could, you eating multiple, we'll come to that, eating multiple Overwatches, all that stuff. But if you really need to get 2 or 3, like enough guys into a unit to win the game or onto an objective, make the charge to get onto objective, then you might split, and that gives you more opportunities to make it. Okay, if it doesn't matter, you don't need to kill the opponent and you're not going to die back, but you need to make that 9-inch to get your last recon or to get onto the middle objective, then now you've just increased your chances of doing that by giving 5 guys a chance to make a 9-inch charge rather than just 1 unit. So there's that as well. That is really something you got to think like top level of consciousness now. Now, we're always talking about our levels of consciousness about where your thinking is. If you really want to use Unleash the Lines effectively, it's got to be a top level of consciousness because you got to do the first thing you got to do in your turn. Another pro, that unit is no longer subject to morale. So let's say a 9-man Alaris unit or any 9-man custodian units, their leadership is not 10 for some reason. They can fail morale. They don't get a reroll or nothing unless you're near the Vexilla. So now you can fail morale if you lose some dudes. But if you're individual models, you can't never fail morale. So there's that little pro there as well. Just going to make this smaller because it's kind of annoying me and getting in my head. Literally getting in my head. Okay, so those are all the pros I came up with. People can find other pros, please let me know. But I think those are most of the general pros. Now, a lot of the cons are just the other sides of those pros, but we'll cover them. First con, 2 CP. That's a quarter of your CP. It's a lot of CP. And you've already probably spending 3 on Homer, 1, 2, 3, 4 on Tanglefoot, maybe a couple of Avenge the Fallens. You know, you're really using a lot of CP to split. And that is a dear resource for us. So you got to keep that in mind, 2 CP. As I already stated, one big con is you only do it at the beginning of your turn. Therefore, you can't do it when you deep strike in. And given that there are a unit of Terminators that often like to deep strike, that is a big con. So especially if you're trying to use it on like a harassment unit in the enemy zone or something, they got to drop down, survive, and then they can split. And so you got to survive and hide for a turn before you can split. So that makes it less cool, but if they can do something when they come down, so say you homer them in, they do something, they take some attacks back, or they wrap and they're safe, now you split, like that might be good. So, you know, it is a con, but you just have to factor it into how you're playing them. So, a big con is you've turned a large, hard-to-kill unit. No, it doesn't seem that hard to kill them these days, but it's still a fairly hardy unit. 2 up, 4 wounds each, bunch of guys. You know, that's one of the kind of hardest to kill unbuffed units in the game. Then you're turning that into multiple, much easier to kill units. So turning a big blob into multiple small pieces. And so that is definitely a con. And as we'll talk later, it kind of goes against how you're trying to play a footless these days, which is denial, kill denial. That's how we have to survive these days, by not dying and eking through. And so giving your opponents easy kills is really the main reason I had never really deep dived this stratagem, is because right off the bat, it just seemed like such a bad idea, no matter what the pros were. But we're over that, but you still have to recognize that that's what you're doing. You're going to be giving up more kills that you otherwise may not have given up. The Alars unit is usually one of your hammers. In the average foot list, you have a couple of big hammer units, you know, big unit of bikes, big unit of guardians, big units of terminators. And so now you've lost some concentrated hitting power in your hammer unit because you've split it. Now, you could still put those 6 guys into your opponent, and in effect, it's the same amount of damage, but now they can interrupt you because one guy attacks, and then they can interrupt you and kill the other guys first. There's disadvantages to hitting with multiple units instead of one big unit, and interruption is one of the big ones. So, and then if you want to if you lose 1 or 2 guys in Overwatch, you might lose 1 or 2 guys on the charged Overwatch, charging multiple times. And you can't avenge the fallen the whole unit now. You can only avenge the fallen. You can't avenge the fallen at all. So, you know, you lose the power of the concerted hammer by splitting it. So for sure, that is a downside, a con of splitting. Especially since it's one of our hammer units. Now, one of the cool things about my Alars concept is that I do have the hammer unit, but then I also have the small unit, which is not meant to be the hammer unit, which is the target for splitting. So, you know, you can get around that a little bit. Okay. All the charging means that less of the unit will make it in. So let's say you have like a 6-inch charge now and you've split. Probably, maybe, 1 guy's not going to make it in, or 2 guys, if you're really unlucky. So, you know, and then you've lost that efficiency over and above the fact that we just talked about, that you split and you lose some hammer efficiency there. So multiple charges means more potentials, more failure points. And then obviously, if you don't make it with the first guy, you're going to eat a second Overwatch. And so that may not be good either. And if you lose a couple of guys in Overwatch and then a couple of guys don't make it in, now you've just really whiffled. So there's definitely the downside there as well of splitting. Obviously, you lose your stratagem efficiency. So Alars actually have a bunch of stratagems just for them. So they have the concussion grenade stratagem, which still 1 guy can use, but you've got to either just aiming at one unit to concuss, or you're cleverly splitting shots and hoping that you don't miss. But, generally, if you have a unit, you can hit whatever you want and just concuss everybody. So concussion stratagem, the axe stratagem to turn -2 to -3, it only affects one guy. And, of course, character sniping, only one guy can snipe. And that's a lot of CP for one guy to snipe and probably not kill anybody. So you lose the ability, or at least the efficiency, of stratagems that are designed for a unit of Alaris Custodians. So that is a big downside. Auras become more difficult to stay in. You've got this unit now that was in aura, where you had one dude trailing back, and now it's split. Now automatically only the dude trailing back is in the aura and everyone else is out. So you have to keep in mind, if you want to keep your split unit in auras, reroll auras, -1 to hit auras, things like that, you need to keep each individual unit in mind. And probably in your consciousness, in the second level of consciousness, or even the first, you may still think of them as a unit even as you go into your next movement phase and forget it. So that's a real thing you have to get used to if you do split, that they're now individual units. And as they go off into divergent areas, which is usually why you split in the first place, now you become difficult to keep in the auras. They actually now, after you split, Alaris Terminators become a wrap target. Not that our Footless has a lot of shooting to be worried about when you've been wrapped, but sometimes it stops you from moving. So, you become a wrap target now. Like, a unit of 30 boys doesn't care about wrapping one Alaris Custodian. Like, Alaris is going to take 6 turns minimum to go through that unit of boys. More than that. And they will eventually whittle it down, or not. Doesn't matter. So they become a wrap target as individual units. So keep that in mind. Most of the time, nobody could wrapping a unit of 6 Alaris Custodians because they're going to die. But you can wrap one dude. Or 2 dudes. Mighty Joe, last game of 40K was 14 years ago. Nice. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. And you found our show, of all places. Okay. So those are the things I've come up with as pros and cons in general about splitting versus not splitting. Or pros of splitting and cons of splitting, not splitting. So let me know if you guys come up with any more. We'll move on to some mission format specific things. Okay, book missions. I gotta say, book missions, chapter approved missions, I have not played a lot of those, but from what I can see, they're mostly just Maelstrom or Eternal War. Maybe 1 or 2 of them have something in there about killing units, and that would be the only real downside, is you're giving up more kill points by splitting 1 kill point into 6 kill points or 7 kill points. Other than that, there's probably no real downside in book missions to splitting. In fact, maybe a real upside in terms of Maelstrom cards, objective holding, and game scoring. So, I think something like Unleash the Lions would have more play in chapter approved or book missions. I won't talk too much more about that because I don't really play that sort of thing. WTC or ETC. So, ETC missions are generally a Maelstrom mission combined with an Eternal War mission with kill points. So let's talk about those. So Eternal War and sort of progressive turn scoring of objectives or other kind of things like kills or things like that. They can help you with that, for sure, scoring objectives as you go. Maelstrom cards, for sure. Splitting the unit can help you with Maelstrom cards. You can hold more objectives. You can get to certain objectives, things like that. You can hold them middle of the board, stuff like that. So generally helps you with Maelstrom cards, although sometimes it can help your opponent kill units better as well, whereas normally they would be denied those sorts of things. So there's a little bit of a con there to Maelstrom, but generally having more units is better in Maelstrom type missions. And then kill points. Well, our army doesn't give up that many kill points, maybe 6 or 7 kill points in total. And the max kill point differential is 6. So if your opponent has 20 kill points or 25 kill points and you think you're going to get 20 kill points in the game, probably giving up 6 extra kill points not going to make a huge difference in the point differential. However, if they have 10 kill points and you have 7 kill points and now you turn into 13 kill points, well, you might have swung it in the other direction. And 1 or 2 points can make a big difference between a 20-0 and a 19-1 in WTC, especially team format. So you need to think about what your role is if you're playing team format, or what you're trying to achieve, and how much damage giving up extra kill points is going to have in terms of WTC missions, and who you're playing against and how many kill points they're going to give up. As I said, in some games it's not going to make a difference. In other games it will make a difference. So you just have to make that call beforehand and say, okay, this game I can't split, or this game I'm going to split. Okay? And that's probably it about WTC specifically. Things that would be of concern in WTC type missions. ITC. Okay, let's talk ITC. So there's a lot in ITC. ITC right now is very board hold centric. Adding objectives, adding a middle objectives, easier to get bonus. The secondaries. There's a lot about ITC that is very hold centric, objective centric. And so being able to cover more board space and hold more objectives can be good. But on the other side of the primary equation, of course, is kill and kill more, and then the kill secondaries. Generally, actually, splitting Alaris actually denies kill secondaries, so they could be targets of mark for death. If you split them, now they have to kill each individual model, which can be difficult or hard, and they can be gangbustered as a single unit, but after you split them, they're no longer eligible for gangbuster because they started as a multi-model unit, but once they split, they're no longer multi-model units when they kill it, so therefore they no longer give up gangbuster. So unleashing the lions can stop you giving up gangbuster. So actually it can be good for kill secondaries. However, as I said before, you might give up kill and kill more, which is something that you really try not to give up as a foot list in ITC. So that has got to be a big consideration for you, giving up that primary, control of primary, by giving up easy kill and kill more. On the upside, you can hold objectives easier, hold one, hold more, and bonus these days. Even without splitting, I'm getting more bonus points. So after splitting, you can definitely contest for bonus. And of course, these guys are OBSEC. That really helps. So double tapping things becomes a possibility. Double tapping Recon, double tapping King of the Hill. After splitting, they now count as individual units. So now you can double tap all these things. And maybe even Linebreaker. If you've dropped 4 guys or 3 guys into the back and now you split them, now you've double tapped Linebreaker. So these things are all possible after splitting now, which would normally be quite hard to achieve with a Custodes army because we're so few units. So you balance these hold ability versus the giving up kills. And that really is where you are in the game, what the game state is, what the score is, how much your opponent still has left. If they don't have much left that can kill these guys, split all you want. Because that's only to your advantage probably in that case. But if they still have a lot of ability to kill individual dudes, then you might need to really think about it. So being able to take an objective off somebody with a single OBSEC model is a great feeling. And so having multiple OBSEC dudes running around decapping objectives on your opponent is amazing. And so that's another sort of objective control sort of advantage in ITC of using Unleash the Lions. Ground control. So at the end of the game, you still got a couple of CP and 4 or 5 of these dudes running around, and you're in a mission where they're pretty close together, like that one where it's like 6 objectives. This can do wonders for ground control. Or turn 5 or turn 4, turn 5, you're thinking forward to turn 6, levels of consciousness, ground control. You need a guy at the back, a guy in the middle. Then you split, leave one guy at the back, move forward, leave a second guy in the middle, and then on your next turn, move up to the next one. So you've got more objective holders for ground control. So that can be a thing as well towards the mid to end game. A big, we already mentioned, being able to wrap them and things like that. And so, you could get bogged down on an objective by a unit of boys, which will hold that objective because they got more dudes, and now you can't do anything about it and you're stuck in there. So being able to bog down and get wrapped is a thing for sure. Okay. So those are kind of the general ups and downs of Unleash the Lines in ITC. And maybe the take-home point is you have a lot more flexibility in terms of holding things, objective control, bonus, and hold secondaries in exchange for giving up kills, easy kills, and possibly kill more, which can be a big deal. But how that balances itself really depends on the mission, depends on who you're playing against and what army they have, and how much at the time of the game, what the score is, what the flow of the battle is. And so this is not something you're going to do right at the beginning of the game, probably, highly unlikely, but probably by turn 3, as you start to make your move out, turn 4 for sure, it should float into your second or first level of consciousness, if you still have the CP, that this is something that you might be able to use to your advantage as the game goes on. So definitely something that starts the game at the 3rd level of consciousness and percolates its way up into the 2nd and 1st level as time goes on. Okay, we're going to go into specific examples of uses now. If anybody has questions, please ask. I'm going to go into some specific examples, and we're trying to illustrate as many of these on the board as we can. I'm going to take this image off now. If you don't know what we're talking about by now, then you're probably out of luck. All right. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is this list that I have, the Alaris concept list. And the purpose of this actually is that I have 2 hammer units. I have a big Guardian unit and I have a big Alaris unit of 6 guys. They're my hammer units. And the intention actually is not to split the big unit at all. It's my hammer unit. I don't want to split it, but I can if I need to really deny Gangbuster, but I try not to. And then I have a 4-man unit that is my surgical unit. I'm actually toying with going 7 and 3. And that surgical unit intention is to harass, dropping midfield, my backfield if I need to clean stuff up, or ideally opponent, turn 3, opponent's field, and then turn 4, potentially, if good, splitting to do things. And so if you think of a unit of 3 guys dropped into your opponent behind a ruin, they can hide out there for a turn or maybe make a charge and wrap something and be safe. And then your opponent either goes back or has to devote a certain amount of resources to go back. If they don't, they're kind of screwed. And then if they survive, split, now I've got lots of things to do with these guys. I can go cap one of their objectives. I can take one of their engineer objectives. I can go kill an engineer unit, go kill a character over there. I can hit the squishy characters in the back. I can touch artillery. I can do all sorts of things in the backfield with multiple decently hard to kill 1-man units that maybe one unit would be limited in doing because it's only 3 guys and they have to move together. So it does have this crazy dream in my head of being a really cool harassment unit of individual Alaris dudes. And very, very much like the lore. A good opponent will not let you do that. But not everybody's a good opponent. And at the worst, it drops down in the thick of it, and now you have another 3-man unit who you can still split and do other things like we're going to talk about. So it's not, all is not lost if you don't get to go into the opponent's backfield, but that is the dream for those 3 guys. They've been living their whole lives to do that harassment duty. But they can still be of use dropped into the midfield. So, computer just turned off. Okay. Ground control. Okay, so this is something that Yoshi did Diogo did at CanHammer team. So it was like round 5, and he was one of our judges, but one butt dropped, and so he had to sub in, and so he played my foot list at CanHammer team against somebody, and in the last couple of turns, he had a unit of like 3 or 4 Alaris Terminators left that had just got onto one of the backfield objectives, but there was like, I think it was an Armiger off over there that was gonna like pelt them, but he needed for cards and whatever to hold this objective that he got on. So what do? And there's no other units nearby. So he split the unit, left one dude on that back objective, and then the other 3 guys went off and killed the Armiger. And then there was another objective there, left 1 guy there, and 2 guys went off to do something else. So that is an example of at the end of the game when the opponent maybe has less resources to take your guys out, you can leave dudes behind and still have some decent power projecting forward into other parts of the board. And then really nice for capping objectives at the end of the game. As we already mentioned, ground control in ITC, or like opponent's objective for bonus, things like that. So it can be used for those sorts of things. Okay, we're going to go to tabletop now. Okay, so here we have a little setup here. Okay, we've got a few objectives here. Here we have a unit of 9 Bulgrin, okay? And this is not an uncommon thing to see. A bully unit stretched across a middle board objective, okay? Or screening or doing whatever, okay? And so what do? You got your 6 Alaris Terminators here. What do? Well, what you could do is you could just, charge in, and hope you get through enough 3-up invulns, and then end up taking a bunch of smacks in the face, okay? Fine. You might get lucky. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, and you're going to die. What you could do, or one use of Unleash the Lines in this circumstance, is actually to split, okay, and then do this. Okay? Or like move and then charge into the ends. Okay? Now, this unit basically can only attack you back with 1 or 2 guys on each side. Okay? And they can't consolidate, right? Because they can't move. They're already stretched out. So if you hit both ends of a large unit, then you limit the number of attacks back. Okay, and you limit their movement flexibility. Okay, and of course, Alaris have movement shenanigans too. You can probably easily get a wrap off on one guy if you really needed to stop these tanks from shooting you. So you have a lot of flexibility by hitting a big unit like that on either end. Okay, now if your opponent's smart, and of course they might be or they might not be, they may just choose to lose one flank and then go this way. Okay. But there's 2 things about that. A disadvantage of that now is that unit is able to be shot. That got freed up, okay? But they might have just fallen back anyway. But this unit is still taking maybe 1 extra guy's worth of attacks after the pilot, okay? So they're still probably going to survive, and now this unit is free. So there's still upsides to it, even if that happens. And if your opponent doesn't, if your opponent decides to take the middle dudes, okay, and then take the middle dudes like that, that's fine. They can't pile these guys in because they cannot be in coherency after they move. Nobody here is allowed to move if that happens, okay? If you take the coherency away, nobody here is allowed to move. Do not let your opponent move, not even to pile in or consolidate. They are not allowed to move, okay? They're stuck there, and you don't even have to wrap them. I mean, it depends on their movement. If they decide to fall back, they might get back into coherency. But if they can't move at all. They can't fall back. They can't do nothing. Okay? If you took another couple of casualties, these are stranded units. Okay? They can not move. Even if you get out of combat, if they don't roll good on the advance, they may not even be able to move then. Okay? They're just literally stranded because of the rules of 40K. So there's ups and downs, mostly upsides to that kind of situation. Okay, but mostly is so that these bully units generally hit pretty hard and you don't get eaten by all the attack back. Okay, by splitting and hitting it on both sides like that. Okay, so that's one thing that I wanted to show you. In the old days, I guess it would be like Plague Bearers. Although they don't attack back, and you stop them from doing movement shenanigans. Now we might have like Gaunts, and this is really nice for like 10-man intercessor units. They got a lot of attacks, especially if the like Thunderhammer dude's in the middle for some reason. That guy's not hitting you, right? Or big unit like 15 Death Company all spread out. 10 Sanguinary Guard. You got a lot of these big combat units now that people tend to spread out, and then you can engage them on your own terms. Okay. So one other thing. Wrapping. So if you're hitting this unit and you're managed to get here, okay, wrapping these guys, let's say there's somebody that you want to wrap, it's going to be a little bit tricky, okay, because it's like, well, you gotta fit your base in between, so that might not apply, and so you might not be able to wrap, okay, and then how he pulls his models might make a big difference. But if you split, okay, let's say like this, now you could wrap this guy, because one guy could charge around here, one guy could charge here, one guy could charge here. They don't have to be in coherency. It's easy then to come in and wrap, okay? The only disadvantage, of course, is that they're individually charging, so they do each have to attack. But But you could just hit them with the hand fist and you probably won't kill anything. So, but individually now, if you have 3 separate units, it's easy to try point someone. You have to rely on 3-inch movements and consolidates and shenanigans. You can just move straight in and try point somebody. So it's a slight little thing that if you're split units, you can wrap a little bit better. Where the wrap really comes in handy is tanks. All right, let's say we got our stupid relic battle cannon Lehman Russ here that we hate and literally one-shots everybody. So let's say we have only 3 guys left because he's been killing us. Oh, he's been killing us. Oh my God, we're so screwed. Can 3 guys wrap a Lehman Russ? No. Okay? It's basically impossible with coherency. Okay? It's impossible. Okay? You need 4 guys to wrap a Lehman Russ. But if they are individual models, okay, first guy has to eat Overwatch. Hopefully you don't die. But you can wrap a Lehman Russ with 3 guys who aren't a unit. Ding, easy. Easy peasy. Okay, the Lehman Russ is stuck. Cannot rotate and get out, cannot do anything. It's stuck. 3 guys have wrapped the Lehman Russ. They're safe. Okay? So that mid-game, end-game, really nice way of wrapping tanks when you don't have enough people to do it. Okay? So that is a cool little thing. Remember that. Okay. Now we're going to talk another thing about bad touching tanks. Bad touching tanks. Okay, so this is not an uncommon thing. Okay, you've got you've got a couple of tank commanders here. They're trying to spread out here so you can't touch them all. Got a couple of basilisks here in the back. Okay, and so what do? 1 unit of Alaris dudes can't touch all these guys and stay in combat, even with pile-in and consolidates, unless you manage to kill the tanks, and 1 or 2 guys may not kill a Lehman Russ because toughness 8 and D3 damage, and only -2. So what do? Okay, well, so if we charge, maybe we'll get lucky and we can touch a couple of guys, and if we manage to kill it, we may get lucky and touch 1 basilisk. But it doesn't really matter if we kill it or not, because you basically nullify them by touching them. We split. 1 guy goes here, a couple of guys go here, 3 guys here, trap them against the building, 1 each for the basilisk. Now you've touched all of them. Okay, and none of your guys are getting shot next turn. So that is cover more space, touch more tanks. Touch them where they don't want to be touched. Okay. Okay, so we covered easier wrapping, especially wrapping tanks. We touched on bad touching tanks and spread out targets, and also lets you touch multiple units that maybe you want to touch. So maybe there's some guardsmen here and you want to send 1 guy there and the rest over here. So depending on the tactical situation at the time, you may want to touch multiple units, and you're able to if you split. Okay. So the thing we already talked about, for example, let's say you have these dudes congregating here and you want to hit them with a majority of your guys, but you need somebody standing on the back here. So you leave 1 guy there, and then you move the rest of the unit up and you split them. You split them up and you move them separately, and you leave a guy on each back objective. That's fine. It's a little bit tenuous because they're not character protected. That's what makes leaving characters on the back so good. But, it is what it is, and gives you a bit of tactical flexibility. Okay. So we already talked about double tapping, but I'll just show you. So let's say this is the middle objective in the middle of the board. Okay, normally a unit of Alaris Terminators can only be in 1 quarter at a time for recon, and so it only gets you 1 quarter. Okay, but if you split this unit now they're in all 4 quarters, 1 unit in each quarter. Okay, and then now if you split 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then you have another unit over here, now you've double tapped recon by splitting. Okay, same with King of the Hill. This would be 1 unit for King of the Hill. You split, now you've double tapped King of the Hill. Okay, 2 turns of that and you've completed King of the Hill, or 2 turns of recon double tapping, you've completed that. So that can get you a lot of points early if you need to survive and you're going to lose their unit anyway, or at the end of the game. Okay, same thing, drop down, opponent zone, split, now double tapping line breaker. Okay, so these are potential uses of the split. Okay. So what Peter mentioned, which I'll show you, is getting out of combat. So late game, I need to get on this objective. Okay, let's see if we can set up Peter's actual situation here. Okay, the guy was being smart. He said, okay, I'm going to charge these guys with a Calexis Assassin so he can hold me up, because it's really hard to kill the Calexis because he's like hitting on 6s. And then Samuel at the back can charge in on my turn and he'll be fine. So what happens is Calexis charges in. Now my guys are stuck. And he's a character, so they can't even do their piling shenanigans to get close to Samuel. We're stuck. We don't kill the Calexis in our turn. Okay, piled in. We don't kill the Calexis. It's a pain in the ass. But now it's our turn. Now we unleash the lions. Okay? That's not a good way. Peter probably set it up more like this. Now we unleash the lions. Boom. Now these are all individual units. Who's in combat? Just this guy. He's going to whack the Calexis. Or not. Doesn't matter. And these 5 other units are not within an inch of the Calexis. And now they're free to do whatever they want and go gang party on Samuel. So that's kind of what Peter was describing. This kind of using Unleash to fall back, to create an artificial situation where you're no longer in combat. So there we go. That one's just for Peter. But kind of a cool use. And I had a Head of the Samuel model that I wanted to use. Okay. There we go, guys. That is basically, I think, all I got for Unleash the Lions. Let's see. Yeah, Peter, that's exactly how that would happen. He thought he was being smart with the Calexis. Yeah, no, that's a nice choose. You have to have the 2 CP left at the end of the game, though, but yeah. Okay, I think I got all of the things I wanted to cover. So, do people have comments, questions, stories? Let me know. Give people a few minutes to put it in. Ants, you missed the lecture. Can you do it again? Well, you can just watch it on YouTube later. It'll be on there forever, so you can watch it. You can watch all our Tactica, going back to the very first one. This is episode 19, so you can go all the way back and watch all of them multiple times if you want, if you can't get enough of me. But yeah, and once our PA starts to get leaked, it's going to be fast and furious, guys. So be ready, and we're going to have to redo them all probably. So it's going to be a lot to do after Psychic Awakening, and so we'll try and do that. So it'll be busy times coming up. Yeah. So I hope that was okay for people. If you have questions, comments, feedback, please let me know. Consider joining the Discord channel there, okay? And that's where the Custodes Collective lives. Come join the community. We're a friendly community. Lots of people asking questions. I'm not really offering any coaching, but people are welcome to ask me questions or DM me about lists or strategies. I've encouraged people to film or take pictures or narrate their games, and we can comment on it. I've had some people send me Word documents with pictures and typed out everything that happened, and I've been able to just comment on the Word doc about things that I thought maybe they could have done better or mistakes or things like that. So, you know, that's the kind of thing that we're doing really on the collective. There's not a charge. There's no charge or anything. It's all just a free community. So consider joining. Next week, as requested, we're going to cover Inquisitors, how to ally them in and how to use them and whether it's good or not. Let's see, where's my guy? Better get him ready. Here we go. Here's my man Rex. Hector Rex ready to go with his giant storm shield. So he'll be on the docket for next week. So we'll be talking Inquisitors and yeah. We still have a bunch of giveaways to do. Have to do that soon. Hang on, people. Okay, I'm gonna do this unboxing right here. So this is a box of prize support for CCBB, which of course was canceled. And this is from the Army Painter, courtesy of Peter and Adam Abramovitz. They actually have supported our tournaments for years now. So big shout out to Adam Abramovitz and Army Painter for being so generous with their prize support to us all the time. And so I received this box ages ago. They sent it a long time ago. And of course, we just canceled it. And they don't want it back. They would like me to give it away to our followers and supporters. So we will. I don't know what's in here. I'm going to open it up right now. And then people can see what they like. I will be talking about all the Inquisitors, yes. Okay. So we have 3 things in here to give away. One is the Mega Paint Set. 50 paints. I might just keep this for myself. 50 paints from Army Painter, as well as a brush and a paint guide and a can of spray primer, I think. So that is to be given away. This is a big, heavy box of a whole bunch of paints. Then we have this Wargamer Hobby Starter Set, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 paints. 9 paints and a wash. Great starting little set here that we also will be giving away. And we have the Hobby Set here, which is 12 paints, a pair of the cutters and glue, and a bunch of brushes and a palette also to give away. So really nice stuff. Big shout out to Adam and the Army Painter for that stuff. We'll be giving that away once I figured out how to give away. At Archer Wind, play against Iron Hands all infantry. Should I go straight and fight them or play the mission, hoping I stay alive from all those shots, ITC? Well, Iron Hands is certainly still strong, not quite as crazy since they can't stay in the Devastator Doctrine anymore. I don't know what Iron Hands players are playing these days other than crazy Stalker Bolt Rifles, because Stalker Bolt Rifles without Devastator are not even half as good as they are in Devastator. So, for sure, if you're playing a foot list of Custodes, then you gotta hide for the first turn or two. That's almost a given against almost any army these days. And then come out, and because if you're not coming out, he's not coming out, then nothing's happening, nobody's winning. So, just bide your time. Pick your secondaries well, stay alive. It's almost never good these days to be over-aggressive in almost any situation. Okay. So, any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Okay. So, I will bid everybody a good night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Consider joining the Discord there. Check out the rest of our Tactica series on YouTube. And we will see you guys next week.